posted in about a year and a half. So now I have finished sixth form, sort of, in the class of COVID-19, which leads me on to what today's video is going to be about, which is what I wish I'd known before starting and during sixth form. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So my first tip, and probably the most important one, is that throughout sixth form, consistency is absolutely key. So what I found particularly helpful is I took my timetable and I allocated all of my frees to particular subjects. So I did maths, physics and chemistry, so I blocked out the time when I was obviously going to be in specific lessons, but then I also took my frees and went, okay, in this free on Monday periods 1 and 2, I'm going to focus on maths. Because I found that throughout my time in sixth form, the amount of homework I was given per subject was really not equal, so I'd prioritise some subjects over others. So for me, that was, I spent a lot of time doing maths and I completely neglected physics, which you can't afford to do. This meant that if in a free I didn't have any homework to do specifically for the subject that that free was supposed to be allocated to, I'd try and get some revision done just to make sure I was always on top of it, especially in year 13. The stuff you did at the beginning of year 12 seems like ages ago and you might forget it existed, but you need to make sure that you still remember it all, because obviously now you don't do AS exams, you do have to remember everything over the 2 years. It also means that you don't really have a choice but to make the most of your frees, because it means you've got a limited amount of time for that subject, so you have to get it done. Having said that, use your common sense. If you've got deadlines coming up, then you might need to replace a subject with another subject, and that's absolutely fine, but it's worth making a note of it. And if possible, say you've replaced physics with maths earlier on in the week, then try later in the week to replace one of your maths frees with physics, just so to keep that balance. So the second sort of set of tips is more about applying to uni. So that's a process that will take place over year 12 and year 13. My first point is more about year 12, which is you don't need to know exactly what you want to do from the beginning of year 12. I was someone who I thought I did know. I'd set my mind, right, okay, I'm going to study physics at uni. Where in the end, that's not what I applied to. I ended up applying for chemistry at different unis to what I thought I was going to apply to. And actually, the fact that I thought I'd decided meant I nearly applied for the wrong course, because although I was enjoying chemistry more, in the back of my mind was always no, but physics is what you're best at, and physics is what you're going to do. So make sure you keep an open mind, even if you do think you know what you want to do in the future. So at my school we didn't do AS exams, and I think most don't anymore, but if your school doesn't do AS exams, then make the most of year 12 as a year off public exams, and it's a really good chance to get ahead on doing things for your university application, for your personal statement, and also do as much reading around your subjects as you can. Reading around your subjects just helps you to engage with them that bit more and deepens your understanding, and honestly, you'll really thank yourself for it later. Whilst you are doing things which you think might be useful for personal statements and such, it's really useful to make some notes. I wasn't expecting to have many interviews for my unis because in my head it was medicine had interviews, everything else, I mean certain unis did, but most didn't. But I ended up having 4 interviews and I didn't have any resources on what I'd been talking about in my personal statement, so that was a bit of a panic, having to suddenly find everything I talked about and make sure that I knew it really well so I could talk about it in an interview. So I'd really recommend, even if you don't think you're going to have interviews, make some notes which you could look at if you did happen to have an interview, just because that will really help you. Having said year 12 is a break from exams, and that is really nice. Just remember to also take any exams that you do have in year 12 seriously, because these are likely to be what your UCAS predicted grade is based off of, and trust me, you don't want to be that person who has to go to your head of sixth form begging for them to take up your grades so you can even apply to the unis that you want to go to. I'd recommend using the summer between year 12 and year 13 to focus on your uni application and getting anything done which you want to put on the application, but also starting to write your personal statement draft and that sort of thing, because the beginning of year 13 is so hectic with UCAS deadlines, and obviously it's starting to get to the point where A-levels are a consideration. Having said that, don't work on your personal statement the entire summer. You do need a break. Year 13 is intense and you're going to need your energy throughout it. but it will just give you that little bit of a head start that will make a massive difference when you get there. A small amount of academic work over the summer is also a good idea, just to keep everything ticking over, because as I've said, you need to learn everything from year 12 for year 13, but like I said, you need a break between the two because year 13 is so intense. So just keep everything ticking over, but don't revise as if your exams are in September. So yeah, the summary of that is basically sort out your uni application as soon as you can so that you can focus on your A-levels. Another thing is, throughout sixth form, don't be scared to ask for help. A-levels are difficult, you're going to a higher level in your subjects, and so you may need to ask a teacher to re-explain something or to help you with a particular question, and that's absolutely fine. Nearly everyone has to ask at some point, and it's important that you do ask and don't just let it slip, because obviously that's going to cause more of a problem later on. My final tip is just honestly make the most of it. Sixth form is a great 2 years, despite all the stress. Trust me, I'm out the other side of it, and if there's one thing the current world situation has said is you just never know when things are going to end, so you know, just make the most of everything while you can. So that pretty much covers all of my advice for sixth form. So thank you very much for watching the video, and I hope to see you soon in less than a year and a half. Bye!